This is part two about HIV and AIDS. So what I wanted to say is that I've seen a lot of videos where some African American males who were doing a lot of talking were debating about some of the gender wars and some of the social issues that are going on here in the States, and talking about branching off and starting their own communities and moving back to Africa. Some people had said that they were going to move to Ghana, and they were going to move to various parts of Africa. Well, HIV AIDS is even higher in those countries. And I'm not even sure if they have the medication as they do here in the States. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I have not really looked into all of that. But I do know that it is said that it is even much higher and more prevalent, or a higher risk of a chance of people contracting the HIV and the AIDS in the African countries. So I don't know that people have really investigated all of the aspects of what they're really talking about. And then I see videos about Black Lives Matter, which it really does. And this is a Black Lives Matter issue when it comes to HIV and AIDS, because it's so high in the culture. There's also the ignorance of gay and lesbians in the black community, where people won't get educated. They don't want to accept the fact that all different nationalities and groups of people have a gay or a lesbian population and an LGBTQ population. So when you bash people and bully people, then they don't want to be honest and come out and say who they are. More recently, we have more people that are coming out and that feel a little more freer about disclosing their personal sexual preference or choice in partner. But there's still the stigma. There's a lot of bisexual black males who are pressured to get married because they're in these churches, in these black churches, and they are taught that you must have a wife or you must have a girlfriend. And then you also have males that are in high numbers incarcerated in prison. We don't know if they've been raped. We don't know if they are participating in unsafe practices in prison. More than 2,000, or more than 2 million rather, even more than 1,000, more than 2 million people in the U.S. are incarcerated in federal, state, and local correctional facilities on any given day. So in 2010, the rate of diagnosed HIV infection among inmates in the state and federal prisons was more than 5 times greater than the rate among people who were not incarcerated. Most inmates with HIV acquire it in their communities before they are incarcerated. So sometimes they actually are infected before they go inside the prisons or the jail system. So in 2012, it even talked about the millions, the 1.57 million people who were incarcerated, and I'm sure there were a high number of African Americans in that number. So it says that 20,000 in 2010, there are 20,093 inmates with HIV and AIDS in the state and federal prisons, with 91% being males. Now, it doesn't talk about what the race, 91%. So these things are prevalent in the African American community and outside of the African American community. So, you see these videos of women, talking about relationships and how to get in relationships. I don't see enough videos or enough awareness about how to learn about being safe. Maybe being single isn't all that bad, provided that you know this information and you get educated. There are ways to combat, or in other words, to keep yourself safe, or to at least get the knowledge to protect yourself, so you have a less chance of contracting HIV and AIDS. So I just think there's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of societal ignorance, and there's also ignorance in the churches. I don't really hear them talking about these subjects in churches. anymore. And so if it's in these communities, not only the African American community, there's a high population of Latin community. So we also have AIDS, HIV and AIDS in Latin, Hispanic, Latinos. There's a large number who are being affected as well. So in 2014, Hispanics and Latinos accounted for 24%. That's 10,887 of estimated 44,784 new diagnoses of HIV infection in the U.S. and 6 dependent areas. Also, they have a gay and bisexual community in the Latino and Hispanic groups. So there's a lot of lies that people are feeding into. So I'll just leave the link of the CDC and then you can look it up for yourself. I think people need to get educated about HIV and AIDS. It has not gone away. The more you know, the better you'll be.